G'day, Scott Newman, Associate Editor of Motor Magazine here. And in the studio today we have a Kinetic Blue Ford Falcon XR8 Sprint. But it's not just any XR8 Sprint. Obviously Falcon production wrapped up a while ago, a couple of years ago. But this is actually a Premcar Holy Grail. Premcar basically came out of ProDrive in Australia. There was a management buyout and a lot of the guys there then started Premcar. They do a whole bunch of OEM sort of stuff for all sorts of manufacturers, but Aussie muscle car fans probably know them for developing and sorting out the engine that lives under here, the Miami V8. So that 5-litre supercharged V8 that was based roughly on a Coyote V8 from the Mustang. So the Premcar Holy Grail is basically the modern GT-HO that Ford never built. If Ford had built a GT-HO, Phase 5, Phase 6, whatever it would have been called in the modern era, this is the car it probably would have been. So the big news, essentially the Holy Grail is an engine package. So it takes the 5-litre supercharged V8 under here from 345 kilowatts, 575 newton meters, to 483 kilowatts and 753 newton meters. So massive grunt, serious grunt. And you might think, well, so what? There's lots of tuners out there, lots of people that can get that sort of power out of a Miami V8. The difference here is because Premcar actually designed and, effectively designed and built the thing, they used the same standards that they used to get the thing past Ford's durability testing. For this thing, it's been dyno tested, it's been hot weather tested, cold weather tested. It's a modified car, but it's kind of in the grey area really between what's a modified car and what's not a modified car. So why don't we just pop the bonnet and we'll have a bit of a look around. There's not much you can see that's different because it's pretty well sorted, but I'll pop the bonnet. Let's run you through it. Strange to have a Falcon back in the studio, strange to be doing things with a Falcon again because we didn't really necessarily know if we'd ever do Falcon content again unless it was in a classic sort of scenario. So as you can see over here, we have power and torque sheet, so Holy Grail, Premcar, Special Vehicle Technologies. The big number that goes up to 753, look at that torque curve. Amazing. And then beautiful linear power curve all the way up to, almost 500 kilowatts at 6,800 RPM. So the thing revs pretty hard too, almost 7,000 RPM. As you can see, it pretty much looks like a Miami V8. Sprint build plate here, this is number 739 of 750. Special story with this car, which I'll tell you in a minute. There's not a whole lot of mods needed to get that sort of power. We've got a cast aluminium intake manifold, but the trick to getting massive power out of these engines is intercooling. For the Sprint, they looked at doing intercooling, but the figures didn't quite work out for the bean counters. But this car is intercooled, which means you can control intake temperatures a lot better, get a heap more power. So we've got intercooling, and as you can see down here, we've got a little heat exchanger in the front. So, for the uninitiated, might think it's an XR6 turbo, but it's not, because you don't see many XR8s with intercoolers in them. And then we've got all the hoses, the fittings, the clamps, that's all the OEM standard. And then it's obviously tuned and validated and delivered to you. They're going to make 100 of these kits. It's about $25,000, but so it's really not cheap. And that's the thing, there are cheaper ways to get this power, but these are the guys who actually, designed this motor. They made it what it is, and now they've made it its ultimate variation. The story with this car I mentioned, this car right here is actually the last new Ford Falcon that was ever sold in Australia. It was found at West Point Ford in Hoppers Crossing in Victoria. A new person took over the dealer, did a stock take, and there was one of these sitting in the back corner, unsold. So Premcar jumped on it and turned it into the Holy Grail. It's currently got 68 kilometres on it, and it will never be driven. So while it's always all about the engine, essentially, the Holy Grail package, Premcar recommends, and everyone would recommend, I think, that you do some chassis upgrades with it. So this car, though it never moves, it's got all the kit. It's got Shockworks suspension in it. Shockworks is another ex-FPV guy, And also we've got these extremely sexy Pilot Sport Cup 2 tyres here. At the rear we have 295mm rear tyres. Sprint went to 275, but this has taken another step again, which has required special control arms in the back. So we've got a lot more rubber, we've got a lot more traction, we've got new suspension, we've got a heap of power, so it'll be very interesting to see what this thing does down the strip tomorrow. Sadly, Premcar's drive prototype is a manual, so always tricky to performance test manual Falcons. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world. This is an auto, but as I said, it'll never be driven. Yeah, this is a very special car. I mean, everybody wanted Ford to go out with a bang and make a really special final car, and they did. They did that with the Sprint variants, the XR6 and the XR8, but you know, everybody's been clamouring for a GT-HO since basically the last GT-HO. And this is kind of as close as you're going to get. You know, it's got suspension upgrades, tyre upgrades, massive amounts of power, all done by guys that historically have worked within the Ford fraternity, within the FPV fraternity. So yeah, can't wait to drive it. Very exciting, and yeah, 100 lucky people will have any Miami powered car basically. If you've got an FPV with a Miami engine in it, it's all good, you're good to go. So yeah, we look forward to sharing our thoughts, sharing our review in the magazine, Motor Mag. It'll be in our March issue. It'll be online, whichcar.com.au/motor, and we're going to do a segment for Which Car TV with it too, so stay tuned.